Encountering the Unknown, Episode 9, A Lending Hand from the Other Side. So, sorry, it's been a minute since we had one of our podcasts, so we apologize.
Apologies.
Yes, this is Paul Evidanian, and this is my son, Paul Evidanian Jr., as you remember. And thank you for the 3 of our followers that support us. So thank you guys, though. But we hope to give you a real interesting one tonight. So
yes.
So where are we at now, date-wise, Paul?
So just before we get into tonight's story, I'd like to give a little, not recap, but a reiteration of some of the stuff that has happened and how developed things have been at this point. And the thing I really want to mention is just how in our yard, how we were seeing all the spirits and stuff. And now we were able to communicate with them at this point going forward. It had developed to a point where it was like so real, and we were experiencing things that we never thought were imaginable or whatever. So that's where
like recap, I guess. So you were actually able to see them and communicate with them.
Yeah, so that all started back in Memorial Day of 17.
Yes.
When I started seeing the heads, and then it progressed and kept on progressing. And then eventually it happened that, we got curious and we went out in the backyard. We said the prayer that we always have to Saint Michael, the Archangel. And then we were doing it, and then all of a sudden we were getting stuff, and then I was able to see and communicate at that point, because I was able to communicate with the spirits in Gettysburg before that. And before I was even able to see, we were taking pictures at home, as I recall, and we were getting stuff, but we were like, okay, well, what does that mean? Like, is this all fake or what? Or not really, but then it was just more reassurance that this is real, this is happening, and, there's so much that people can try and look at and be like, well, that doesn't look right, but when you're in the moment and everything's happening, you're just like, wow. You can't question it. It's just coming at you, and you cannot be so adverse against it, because it's really just, I don't know, every experience we've had, it's been just it happens, and then after, that's when you really have a debrief and look at it in a different view.
Well, sure, looking back, remember at the time you were 14 to 13 and a half to 15 and a half or whatever, that you really, so you're very innocent, and we were all in amazement of what Paul would tell us, all of our friends who are highly educated people, and we were just amazed, and how many people did we bring along with us?
Oh, we brought so many different groups and
several
people.
Of my patients and my friends, and
just
people from
great
local
people,
judges, doctors,
all great people,
all types, police officers, whatever. So that was amazing. So, so the episode tonight, I guess you'll have to do the first thing that happens in the yard, I believe, right?
Oh well, so no. The first thing doesn't happen in the yard, but the thing we just want to say was that we were getting pictures and we were communicating with them in the yard, but then jumping to either late summer or early fall of 2018, my friend, he had lost his grandfather in mid 2017. His grandfather's name was Joe, and then his other grandfather on his mom's side, Carl, he was diagnosed with, I forget, an aggressive form of cancer. I forget which kind.
Cancer sucks, as everybody knows. So F cancer, that.
But it wasn't pretty. And I remember it was just a very tough thing to see my best friend go through. And he was just asking for people to pray for his grandfather and stuff. And one Sunday night, he had been asking us, I think it was maybe the first or second week of school, so it would have been August still. And he was he put him on the prayer list for middle school, and he was yeah, can anyone pray for him, or just anything would help. And that Sunday night I prayed, And I was like, I hope he gets better, all this stuff. You know, I just hope that, like, Matthew gets better through this also. And then when I was saying that, all of a sudden, this voice out of nowhere, I was in my bathroom, I remember. I heard this voice from nowhere. I didn't see anyone, but I heard, "Don't wash the watch. I know it still smells of smoke." And I was like, what? I was immediately wrote it down, and then I ran downstairs to you.
I was, whatever, brushing my teeth. I think you came in. It was like a Sunday night, right?
Yeah, I forget.
Yeah, I was getting ready for bed, whatever it was. But I was in my bathroom, I guess, brushing my teeth. And you came in and told me that. So I think I said, well, talk to Matthew tomorrow or something at school. Yeah. You'll talk to him.
Yeah, I remember you asked. Yeah,
if it was anything. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he knew or something. So
yeah, because I was completely like, what?
Yeah.
Like, so then the next day, it's a Monday, and our class, 8th grade class, was going to Independence Hall in Philly. But I had a migraine, so I did not get to go. Still haven't gone. And I never went. And Matthew went and everything, so I never got to ask him until later that night. And we ended up FaceTiming, and we were just talking about stupid stuff for a while, and just, you know, cracking jokes and being dudes at the time. And then eventually I finally got to ask the question, and I was like, so what does this mean to you? Does this mean anything at all? Like, I just, you know, I was praying for your one grandfather, and then this is what I heard, and I have no idea if this means anything. If it doesn't, cool. If it does, that's crazy. And immediately he broke down, and I was like I did not understand what I had just said to him, basically. And he told me that, like, a couple weeks before that, or like a week or two before that, him and his dad had his other grandfather's watch that he wore during Vietnam, because he was a Marine, or he was in the Navy, actually, I think. And he served in Vietnam, and he had a watch that he wore, and it was passed down to Matthew, and they were thinking about washing the watch. So, why because it smelled like smoke.
What?
Crazy.
Right. I mean, right.
So, yeah, no, when he told me that, I was just kind of like...
It's amazing.
I was like,
and that's why he was
because I had no idea what the connection was.
Right.
I was just like, you know, I heard this, since I was thinking of you at the time and your family, this is why I feel like I needed to ask you, not anyone else. And that's why you told me to ask him, because I wasn't thinking of really anyone else at that time. And we were just talking, and he got his dad in there, and I told his dad, and it was just a water fest. Tears were flowing. Meanwhile, I was just like, you know, like, I still did not understand the gravity of everything I heard and everything I just delivered.
Yeah. What it meant to them, yeah.
I had never seen a pic of his grandfather, Joe, though, who had already passed. And so I remember asking him, I was like, can you send me a picture of him just so I can see who this person was who contacted or somehow made his way into our lives, and just, you know, got his not final statement, but he got a statement that he wanted out there, and that it had so much gravity and weight to, that it impacted, you know, not only my life, but more so their lives. And I was just kind of like the middleman in that whole thing, and I was just delivering a message that someone else told to me. So that was very interesting. And so then when he was like, oh, I'll send the picture or whatever, and Brody, our golden retriever, oldest golden retriever, he'd use the bathroom, and I was like, all right. I was like, Matt, I'm going to go take him out. I'll be back in like 5 to 10 minutes, you know, just send me the picture and it'll be okay. That sounded like a threat. Nah, I was kidding. So then I take Brody out. We're in the side yard, on the right side of our side yard. And we have a lamppost, like, kind of in the middle,
in the front
area,
front,
to the right. and Brody was facing back towards me, back towards our neighbor on our left side in the front house. So he wasn't looking back to the right, but I was standing there, just whatever I was wearing. I was just looking that way, and the lamppost light was on, and it was very misty. I remember it was humid, misty, and foggy. And I was out there, and I was just looking over to the right, and all of a sudden, just like, boom, there's this guy just there. And I was like, what the hell? Like, it wasn't like it faded in. It was just like, almost like when you blink and something's there that you didn't see before, but I know I didn't blink. So I was like, okay, this is crazy. But then I saw the blue hue or outline all over him. So I was like, okay, this is someone who's friendly.
Surrounding him.
Yeah, I was like, this isn't something that could be malicious or just unknown to us. I was like, this is someone who's whatever. This is something positive or just like whatever. Just good.
Well, you knew not to be afraid.
Yeah, and I remember he had glasses on, short hair, mustache, big nose, big red nose, pointy shoes. I think he had like jeans or dark pants on, and he had a checkered shirt. It was like green and blue and white, and he had a big belt buckle on. And I remember I was like, whoa. Like the belt buckle was probably the thing I remembered the most. I was like, it was a big like oval or circular one. And it had some type of insignia or some type of something on it, form. And I remember I was just like, who's this? And he was looking at me. Brody didn't see him this whole time. Brody was still looking that way, and I was looking this way.
Did Brody ever see him? Did he ever look at him?
I think Brody was distracted.
So I wonder if he could see him. You know, that's...
Well, he saw Toriano
right, I know.
one time.
That's why I was wondering... But you don't recall that he, you know...
I remember this person was farther back than Brody anyway.
Yeah.
But I don't think Brody was... He was just doing his business and getting out of there. But I remember I was the one who was looking that way. So it was just like immediately...
And this entity or person did not move? They were just...
They were just standing there like idle, looking at me, but then also looking around. Like I remember... Like it was like a real person. I was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. I was like, this is kind of weird. It was trippy.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, so that's, I don't know, that was weird. And then Brody finished doing his business, but then before that, he was just gone in the same way.
Like, were you still looking?
I was still looking.
You never changed your gaze.
Like I blinked maybe once or twice in the whole thing. It was probably only like 30 seconds or something. Thing. But... I didn't like look away and then look back. No, I was focused because there was something abnormal there that shouldn't have. Well, you know, not normally would be there.
Right.
And I was just like, wow, what is that? So then I was looking at it, and then he was just like, I blinked again, and he was gone.
Had you ever seen this person before?
Never ever. And so Brody was done, and it was finally time to go in. Matthew was still on the call with his dad on the other end. He's like, I sent you the picture of my grandfather, Joe. And so when I looked at the picture, I was like, no way. This is when the whole situation for me felt so much like heavier. Well, the gravity of it was more like hard hitting.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's the guy I just saw. And then I told them, and then it was more tear fest. I was like, waterworks.
Was he dressed the same way?
Not the same exact, but the same style, and the glasses were the same, and the mustache and the hairstyle were the same. But I was just like, I was
amazed.
Oh my gosh, I was just like, I just saw that. Yeah. I was like, I took Brody out, and I had asked you for a picture.
Yeah.
I didn't see a picture until I came back.
After you saw him.
But I'm telling you, this is what I saw.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, I was kind of, not freaked out, but I was just like, oh, like this is crazy. So that was very, very, very real.
I remember because I was at work. I was, I work late on Monday, so by the time I got home at like 9, you were all like pumped up and, telling me about it. And I think Matthew was still on.
Yeah.
So then I was just hearing about this.
Yeah, because I think, Matt even probably said a little bit of his piece too. Because we were both like,
so
it was just emotional and crazy. Getting to have that, like the opportunity to be able to, see that or hear that without asking or just, having someone feel like they could say something, kind of, which is crazy. And the other thing is like what we were talking about before, like how come people who come through without the prayer that we say, they're not allowed to say anything. They can show up in a form where they're kind of like stuck or idle, almost like a statue, but they can look around and walk around, but they never get to speak, really. It's just like they're there. Mm-hmm. They get to project themselves, but they cannot communicate at all. But then when we would do the prayer together, then communication was on. So it just tells you how much more like that the prayer
but
actually
that's what,
works.
Like we figured out by talking about things that you've seen, and why didn't these ones talk and these ones did, and that's what we
and it was
through deduction we realized that that's probably it.
It's kind of
the prayer allows them to speak if they're good or whatever. Which was awesome. And had you ever met his grandpa in life? Like,
never met Joe, but I did kind of meet Carl the one time. A funny interaction with him that I will not share.
Yeah, Matt knows.
Matt knows. And I think I told his family also. But I did meet Carl, the grandfather who was being prayed for at the time.
Yeah, Joe had passed, a year before that or something?
Yeah, or at least close to a year, at least. So it was a whole thing. And I remember like seeing my best friend going through that. I was like, that's not good. That doesn't feel good. And I try and cheer him up and stuff. And I was like, words are words and stuff. But I just hope that he knows how much like people are actually like seeing the effects of this on him and like how people care and stuff. 'Cause he is like a brother and everything. But then continuing the whole story and everything, it was either a week or like a couple weeks, because I remember from that point when Matthew asked all that stuff, Carl, he just declined like pretty fast, and then he passed away. And I forget exactly when, but it was like I said, in the week or a couple weeks or a little more. We went out in the yard and everything, and then we saw Joe and Carl.
You did, yeah.
Yeah.
Again, you were just explaining
what was going on.
We opened the prayer.
Yeah.
And you were just, I remember that.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to ask questions through you to them. I think about heaven or something. I think it was about heaven.
Yeah.
I was trying to ask Joe about heaven, and he said, "Well, there'll be another time for that or whatever.
Yeah.
I need to ask you." He was talking to you. I need to ask you guys something.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember like it had been kind of light talking before that, and then all of a sudden it got like super serious. And he was like saying like, "Can you promise that you will look after Matthew and help him with the stuff that is going on?" And at the time, you and I didn't know. We were just like, okay, we will help Matthew.
And both of them, and Carl was there too.
There's he was kind of on the quieter side with everything. I remember Joe was the one who was more like, this is there's stuff that needs to be.
And Joe had been gone for about a year and a half or something, about a year.
Yeah, probably over a year.
He had just passed away like a week or two, right? I mean,
it was still it was a recent one.
That's
so
crazy. And when you saw them, what were they? Did you see them standing there, or what was it like together, or what was it like?
I remember, so like we were out in the back, and we have all of our usual people there.
Were they our
and all their little setups and everything. And then I remember Joe was just like, he was there. And I remember Carl came a little bit after.
Okay.
And then it was like they were just going back and forth. But it was like, like looking at a real person, just with the hue and everything.
On the ground. They were standing. They weren't flying around.
It wasn't like
sitting on the roof. Or
Houdini or whatever, or the genie from Aladdin just floating out.
And they were the same blue hue around both of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which was very cool to see. And yeah, no, it's thinking about that all is just like crazy because there's so many like things that are just like abnormal.
But just the detail of everything is like incredible, like what you would describe to us, you know. And like I said, I do have a lot of these videoed, but it's funny to hear your voice.
Yeah.
You know,
oh my gosh, yeah, it was like high. Very high at the time. Back. Yeah, wait, you might want to tell the viewers your idea.
Well, like I said before, you know, I have a lot of videos of when we were doing this live actually in Gettysburg and in the yard, and so we might even do an episode, you know, down the road where play like a hodgepodge of all these interactions, you know, and for like 5 minutes each or whatever, or all of them. We could just put them on there maybe. We talked about we're doing a website too. That would be cool. And we could put them on there, all the videos, to hear you in your high voice when you were like 14. And what you were telling, because that is truth and that is raw. And that was like incredible. And that's what, you know, it's, you know, we're down the road a few years and stuff, but to think back and hear that, what it was like for you.
That was just what was going on at the time.
Unbelievable. So
yeah. Became the new normal at that point, and I was just like,
it was that's why we went so many times, right?
Yeah. So then continuing after that night, we saw Joe and Carl, and they said that both of them said that it wasn't just one or the other; it was both of them requested that. Matt had been experiencing some weird back pains that they went to medical advice and help.
Yeah, they'd been to the doctor and stuff, and they came up with nothing.
Yeah, they were like, well, there's no reason why he should be experiencing any of this because, you know, he's healthy, he plays soccer, he's always running, you know, like, he seems like he's whatever, he's fine. He should be fine at least. And I remember after Carl passed, that was when I was like, you know, I could tell that stuff was bothering him, and I just felt bad. I was like, you know,
both grandpas within like 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, less hard, a year and a half.
And two people he loved dearly. So that's we all know that. Everyone's been through death and mourning, so
that was hard. And hard seeing like your best friend go through that.
Right. So you felt bad for
when
him.
Your words like. You thought they were meaning more, or like they were.
Well, they were the things you said.
But it was just hard. It's hard for someone to just be joyful after something like that has happened.
So we know he was sad. Obviously, he was very
obviously,
sad.
I'd be sad.
And,
you know, that's hard. So he had those problems and everything, and then now fast forwarding to a very specific date that we both remember. And that is documented in our little library of studies and research, September 22nd of 2018. This was supposed to be a normal night at Gettysburg, and we thought everything was going to be, you know, the way it always has been. Matthew was with us. It was just the three of us, actually. Normal thing, went to Dairy Queen as always, probably. Get the 6 piece.
It was great. They knew us there. We were there so many times.
The good stuff. You know, said the prayer like usual and everything.
Again, this was a time too at Gettysburg, which we mentioned before. The park used to be open till 10 p.m.
Yeah.
So
we weren't breaking the law.
We had like 2.5 hours of night.
True.
That we could take pictures and stuff. So I remember that specific night. There wasn't many other people there.
No, that was a very quiet night and still night. Even like the park rangers weren't doing their jobs. What? No, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. If anyone's a park ranger watching this,
thank you for protecting those monuments. Obviously,
yes,
protecting history.
Yeah, just know who you're arresting.
Yes, exactly.
So then the first place we went to that night was the Vermont Cavalry Field, because that had been a popular point for us, where we were getting good and a lot of what is it? I'm trying to think. We were just getting a lot of
activity.
Stuff. Activity. That's the word I was.
We also had you could feel them.
Yeah.
Anyway, people that would go with us. You could all of a sudden a wave of 50 degrees from 70 to 50 or 40. The pictures, we could see that you could see them.
Yeah.
When the prayer was open. So there was just like the battle. But in the evening, and I think we talked about this, that in the evening it was like they were sort of at peace, walking around and stuff.
It was different. It was a whole different atmosphere. It was almost like what live time would have been and what back then time would have been in the daytime, which is weird.
Like at night they're not really battling. They did sometimes, but to sneak up on each other. But otherwise they were just chilling with their comrades and their friends,
chill with the homies,
the family.
So I actually forgot to mention, but when we first started the prayer, we saw Joe, and he was you
saw Joe.
I remember he said he wasn't going to talk at that point. He's like, I'll see you guys later or whatever. And so then we were at Vermont Cavalry Field, and then we were about to leave. I remember this. We were about to leave that area after getting a lot of activity and everything. I was just trying to think of the word earlier. And then he told us that he was going to show up as a dark blue orb in an image whenever we would take it, which was crazy. And we were like, okay, that's cool. And we'll put a picture in a couple minutes of what happened. But he just wanted to reassure to Matthew that he was okay, everything was okay,
and that he was
with Matthew. He was, he was still looking over Matthew, and everything was going to be okay, and tell his family that everything was good. But then he was like, I'm going to leave this place. I'm not staying here. I'm going. He's like, he didn't say where, but I think he just meant like he was going to a different spot that night. He wasn't like going, or he could have been gone. I don't know.
Right.
But he was like, but before I do that, he's like, I'm going to, I can show up in a picture for you guys. I remember we asked at that point. And that's when he also reiterated, he's like, remember, I'm going to show up as a dark blue orb in the picture. So the emphasis was on the dark blue orb. And we took a picture of Matthew and where Joe had been, which was, I remember I told Matthew to go over where Joe was. We took the picture, and then in the middle of the picture, you see Matthew, like, either looking at us or looking away, and you see a dark blue orb in the middle of the picture. And it was just like, wow.
Yeah, he just called
like, he literally just said that seconds before we just took that picture, which was very crazy. And, then after that, he was like, okay, I'm leaving. It was good talking, and it was very emotional at that point, everything that had happened. And he was gone, and we were about to leave. And I remember you had gone back, you walked back up the trail to get a little more pictures. And Matthew and I were still lingering by the head of the trail, going back towards the car. We were about to walk over to the car, and we were standing like next to each other, and there was space in between. And all of a sudden, we heard like a deep inhale or breathing or like sucking noise. So it was like that. And we both looked at each other. We were like, did you hear that? Like, what the hell was that? And neither of us had an explanation. We were like, was that you? And no, that was just weird. So we didn't even like know what to think about that. We were like, oh, all right, we heard a noise. You hear noises a couple times, that's fine. So then we were going to 20th Main, the main area, when we finally decided to go and everything. We got there, we went to the top area, but then we all split up. I remember this part. You went to the right, Matthew stayed towards the left upper area, and then I went to the back far. I just kept on walking on that trail that was there. I remember where Billings would have been.
It's really nice in there. Anybody who wants to go up there, Little Round Top, they redid it. Just opened a couple months ago. It's beautiful.
Yes. So we had all split up, which was, we were all just kind of doing our own thing. And I remember I was just taking pictures. You were taking pictures also, and we were just saying stuff. And I was communicating with some of the ones there. And then Matthew stayed at the little rock wall area where he was sitting on one of the rocks. And he had told us that he wanted to have his grandfather do the flashlight trick, either to turn it on or turn it off. And he was just doing either or. Just had it sitting there, and he was just waiting and stuff. And I remember we were like, okay, that's cool. We're going to do our thing, and we'll just come back and see, like, let us know if anything happens. Because we were, at this point, so much had happened that we were.
We never tried that trick.
Yeah, no,
this was. See it on, like, Ghost Adventures.
Yeah.
And Ghost, whatever.
You're like, who touched that? No.
Well, it turns on and off. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So we were going to try. He was going to try that.
Yeah. So then I remember he was just sitting there, and then I was like, okay, I'm just going to walk back. And I remember walking back, and Matthew's back was facing me. And I looked, and I saw something on top of him. Some weird, nasty-looking creature just perched on top of his back. And I was like, what the hell is that? Matthew was totally oblivious to this. He was just sitting there like this.
Yeah.
He had his back hunched.
So that looked like so out of
Oh my gosh. I was like, what the hell is that?
And what did it look like?
Oh my gosh. It was just like 3 foot tall, like weird, skinny, very skinny. Skin was transparent. It was like tan, but you could see like the bones and veins everywhere.
Was it looking at you?
At this point, no, because it was too busy doing what it was doing.
Okay.
And this thing was breathing what we think was like the life force out of Matthew.
Or sucking
because
the life force out of him.
There were 2 prongs of light coming out of Matthew's back that this thing was breathing, and I could see it going into its mouth. And it was like feeding off of it. And it just made me so angry.
And literally like the Dementors.
Yeah, like the Dementors. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Harry Potter. No, Harry Potter.
Yeah, so true. I mean, that's crazy. And this was, I remember you describing that. And actually, we have a picture that I took of Matt, and you can see the
prongs.
2 spots on his back.
Dots on him.
Yeah, I think the light blue.
Yeah, light blue. Yeah, but like in the spots exactly where I saw him, and I was like, that's where I saw him.
Right.
And I remember beady black eyes, wide eyes, bald, kind of like elf ears. If you really had to describe this thing, it was like Gollum, but shorter.
From The Hobbit?
Yeah, from The Hobbit, or Lord of the Rings, or Schmeagol, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Freaky
looking thing.
Lord of the Rings
Smaller
people.
Than Schmeagol.
You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but 4 fingers,
but solid,
including
nothing around it.
Yeah,
right?
That's the distinction here. There was nothing, no.
Was it lit up though?
Hue.
Because that was in the dark. Was it like lit up?
I could see it better than normal.
Because
I could see it better than normal, and that could have just been from the realm or dimension or wherever this thing is from. But sharp, long nails and everything, and it was
what
just
was it
nasty.
doing with the nails? Anything, or was it just?
Oh, it was just perched on Matthew. It was gripped on Matthew.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even know. I was like, what do I do?
You had never seen anything like this.
Take a baseball bat and then I miss and hit Matthew.
Even the demon things or whatever we thought.
Yeah,
that we saw,
at Eddie's and everything.
This was way scary.
Oh my gosh, this was like, because I was just feet away and I was like, ugh.
This did not look human.
Yeah, so we saw that.
In fact, I did a sketch. which
we both did a
find and
sketch.
put it.
Yeah.
It was almost like the Dead Files. Is this
Yeah.
what you saw, Paul?
Yes.
And you said yes. So we're gonna put that in there, and
that's going to be input now or inserted now.
You know, we did that then, that picture, so we'll put that in there.
Very scary stuff. So yeah, hate to leave you on a cliffhanger, but that's exactly what we were going to do.
Well,
so
it gets kind of crazy after this. So
there's another episode continuing this
try and
whole
do that,
story
like, very soon
in the next week.
Yes.
Like we said, for you guys and everything. And thank you for listening, and hope you guys tune in on the next one, because we've missed it a lot.
Yeah.
Just being occupied, and we're back. We're back.
And thank you.
Thank you all.
God bless America. Thank you.
Take care.